What do I love about Vegas? Vegas, the people who live there, people who live there happen to be some of the nicest people in the world.
He was once the dazzling star of the Las Vegas Strip, the velvet-voiced crooner who captivated millions with his charm, charisma, and unforgettable performances. Wayne Newton, Mr. Las Vegas himself, embodied glamour, fame, and success. But time has not been kind to the icon. So, what happened to the man who once seemed larger than life? And how did it all come to this, where the glitter has faded and sadness quietly takes its place? Let's take a look at Wayne Newton's life. Now that he's 83, the way he lives is just sad. The legendary Wayne Newton is still working. It's a warm Vegas evening, the neon lights still buzzing like they did decades ago. Tucked inside, a modest venue, the Flamingo, maybe Bally's, an older crowd gathers. They aren't here for Britney's flash or Cirque du Soleil's acrobatics. They're here for him, the man they once knew as Mr. Las Vegas, the velvet-voiced crooner, the showman with the jet-black hair and bedazzled tux. Wayne Newton. Now 83, Newton steps onto the stage slowly, the confident swagger replaced with something gentler, perhaps more fragile, certainly more human. The applause washes over him like warm waves. For a moment, the years fall away. As the new millennium dawned, Wayne Newton wasn't slowing down, he was just getting started on a new act. Already a Vegas legend, Newton leaned further into his role as the unofficial ambassador of the city, becoming its glittering frontman through the 2000s. In January 2005, he took a bold step into reality television with The Entertainer on The premise, a talent competition where the winner didn't just walk away with applause. They landed a spot in Newton's own Vegas show and a headlining gig of their own for a year. The stakes were high, the lights even brighter. By 2007, Wayne Newton's presence was woven into the fabric of Vegas pop culture. During the NBA All-Star Weekend, he took the stage and belted out Elvis Presley's iconic Viva Las Vegas, injecting even more star power into an already electrified crowd. Later that year, Newton hit the dance floor on the wildly popular Dancing with the Stars, paired with two-time champ Cheryl Burke. Though he didn't take home the Mirror Ball trophy, bowing out as the third contestant eliminated, his appearance was unforgettable while taping the show. At CBS Television City, Newton made a surprise crossover to The Price is Right, becoming the very first guest star under new host Drew Carey. Fittingly, his cameo followed a prize reveal of a trip to Las Vegas. On October 14, 2009, Newton unveiled a brand new live show, Once Before I Go, at the Tropicana, adding yet another chapter to his Vegas residency legacy. But in 2010, he hit the pause button, stepping away from the spotlight for 5 years to focus on family and vocal rejuvenation. Refreshed and recharged, he returned in 2016 with Up Close and Personal at Bally's. The lounge-style show was an intimate blend of live music, storytelling, and nostalgia, featuring Newton playing from his arsenal of 13 self-taught instruments and sharing personal video clips spanning decades. It was a love letter to his fans and to Las Vegas. By 2019, Newton had racked up more than 30,000 shows on the Strip. He celebrated an astonishing 60 years on stage with a new production titled Mr. Las Vegas at Caesar's Palace, a venue he considered the crown jewel of the Strip. "It's hard for me to articulate, much less think about it," Newton reflected. "I was here when Caesar's was built." Even amid a global pandemic, Newton remained a fixture of Vegas. In June 2020, he popped up in TV commercials as the face of Caesar's Entertainment, encouraging visitors to return to the resorts with his signature warmth and charm. And in 2022, when the NFL draft rolled into Las Vegas, Newton stood beside Hall of Famer Marcus Allen to help announce the Raiders' third-round pick, Dylan Parham from the University of Memphis. Because when something big happens in Vegas, Wayne Newton is never far from the spotlight. But these days, Wayne's performances rely less on vocal fireworks and more on memories. His once golden voice now cracks under the weight of age. High notes are passed over, lyrics are sometimes spoken rather than sung. But where the voice fades, the storytelling blooms. He shares tales of performing for presidents, of Frank Sinatra giving him advice, of horses and heartbreaks, of standing ovations at Caesar's Palace. In these moments, Newton becomes less a singer and more a living museum of Vegas lore, part ghost, part legend, part elder statesman of showbiz. So why does he keep going? Is it the money? After decades of financial missteps, lawsuits, and the near loss of his treasured estate, Casa de Shenandoah, the answer might be yes. Newton has bills to pay, and a Las Vegas residency, however modest, still brings in income. But it's more than that. There's something deeper etched into the lines of his face and the careful way he holds the microphone. A man doesn't keep returning to the stage just for dollars, not after all he's been through. No, Newton needs the stage. He thrives on the applause, the attention, the illusion of youth it all brings under the spotlight. He is not Wayne Newton, the debt-ridden icon or the tabloid headline. He is Wayne Newton, entertainer, loved and needed. But the wear is showing. The physical toll of night after night performances is harsh. He moves slower sometimes, sits during sets. His energy dips. Rumors swirl backstage of health concerns, of long naps between rehearsals, of a man who perhaps shouldn't be doing this anymore, but won't stop. But how did it get this for a man who's supposed to be retired and enjoying the wealth he's gathered over the years? Let's delve into Wayne Newton's financial mess. Wayne Newton's financial fallout. For years, Wayne Newton lived like the king of Las Vegas, and kings aren't known for modesty. With a lifestyle that included white Arabian horses, rare European sports cars, and a jet parked practically in his backyard, it seemed the man behind Danke Schoen had built an empire too, grand to fail. But the Bills had other ideas. As the years wore on, the lavishness that once symbolized Wayne Newton's success began to strangle his finances. The estate that had once wowed visitors, Casa de Shenandoah, turned into a money pit. The costs of maintaining exotic animals, lush grounds, and personal staff ran into the millions annually. Add in failed investments, mounting debt, and legal entanglements, and the empire started to collapse under its own weight. Soon, Newton lost control over much of his estate. Creditors came calling, and so did the headlines. Items once synonymous with his image, classic cars, artwork, stage costumes, were repossessed or auctioned off, often in highly publicized events that read more like obituaries than sales listings. The spectacle wasn't just financial, it was emotional, a slow motion, unraveling of a legend in front of the world. The media pounced. Tabloids ran with headlines like, "Mr. Las Vegas loses his kingdom," portraying Newton as a faded star clinging to past glory. For a man who had been the embodiment of poise and showmanship, the embarrassment was palpable. Newton, for his part, handled it with public composure. He gave interviews acknowledging the hardship, but stopped, short of admitting defeat. He spoke of new beginnings, of learning who his real friends were. "I'm still standing," he'd say, as if the showman in him refused to yield, even when the spotlight turned cold. Still, the damage was done. The world had watched a giant stumble. And while Newton never officially declared himself finished, the fallout left scars on his finances, his reputation, and perhaps most painfully, on the dream he'd spent a lifetime building. As the years passed and the glimmer of Wayne Newton's prime began to fade, controversy began to shadow the sparkle. One of the earliest and most troubling accusations centered around Casa de Shenandoah, not for its grandeur, but for what went on behind the fences. Animal rights groups raised alarms about the conditions of the exotic animals housed on the property. Wallabies, birds, and Arabian horses, once symbols of Newton's extravagant lifestyle, were reportedly kept in subpar conditions. Photos and testimonies sparked investigations and stained the carefully cultivated image of a gentle animal lover. Then came internal disputes. Former employees and business partners accused Wayne Newton of mismanagement, unpaid wages, and broken contracts. One lawsuit after another painted a picture not of a seasoned entertainer struggling with bad luck, but of a man out of touch with the realities of modern business. Critics said he surrounded himself with yes men. And when things went south, the finger-pointing began. Even fans began to murmur. As Newton continued to perform despite declining vocal strength and visible signs of fatigue, many wondered if he was pushing too far. Some called his continued appearances admirable. Others called them sad. He should have retired years ago, one former Las Vegas insider was quoted saying, "He's tarnishing his own legacy." One of the most polarizing incidents came during his longtime relationship with the USO. Newton had served as a goodwill ambassador and performer for decades, supporting troops across the globe. But his appointment to a senior leadership role within the organization sparked backlash. Critics claimed he was unqualified and accused the USO of playing favorites with a fading star. Then there were whispers of arrogance. Newton's interviews, once marked by charm and humility, occasionally turned defensive. He dismissed criticism as jealousy or misunderstanding. But to some, his inability to acknowledge his decline painted a portrait of a man lost in his own mythology. It wasn't that Wayne Newton suddenly became a villain, but the sparkle was chipped. The controversies, one after another, began to pile up like forgotten fan letters. Each one, small but together, impossible to ignore. And one particular relationship defined Wayne. Newton's decline more than others, it was his relationship with Tony Orlando. So, what really happened between them? Let's delve into that. Wayne Newton's strained relationship with Tony Orlando. Wayne Newton and Tony Orlando were once Las Vegas royalty, brothers in song, success, and sequins. They shared stages, audiences, and a deep mutual respect carved from decades of navigating the brutal terrain of showbiz. But even the brightest partnerships can fall apart under the weight of truth unspoken. As Newton's financial troubles became public, Orlando, himself a seasoned entertainer and longtime friend, voiced concern, not in cruel tabloids or gossip shows, but in public interviews marked with visible discomfort. "I just want what's best for Wayne," he said once, his voice tinged with sadness. Sometimes we all need to know when it's time to take a bow. To Newton, those words didn't land as love. They stung. Newton reportedly felt betrayed. To him, Orlando's comments weren't concern. They were criticism. Pride, perhaps sharpened by years of struggle, flared. The once solid friendship turned to silence. Appearances together ceased. The laughter and camaraderie once shared backstage were replaced by awkward sidesteps and unanswered calls. While Newton's financial troubles might have affected the relationship between the two, performances, another incident took the whole drama to a new level. A bugging incident. Even though the police department closed the book on the investigation with no charges, no follow-up, no fanfare, just a quiet end to a controversy that has crackled with speculation. Orlando's people weren't ready to let it go. Sure, they didn't find anything illegal. Newton owns the lease. But legal doesn't mean right. Spying on people without their knowledge? That's not justice. It's betrayal. Newton, meanwhile, claimed the real drama wasn't about wires or whispers, but weak ticket. Sales and empty seats at Talk of the Town, a business venture they got in using their initials to form an acronym, and just days after police came knocking with questions, Newton didn't retreat. He struck back, landing a headline-grabbing blow of his own. On December 14, just days after canceling the remainder of his 1998 Orlando shows and mere hours before investigators declared the case closed, Wayne Newton released a pointed public statement that didn't pull punches. Wayne Newton expressed disappointment that Orlando would cite alleged phone tapping to deflect from his financial struggles. He wished Orlando and his family well, hoping they could overcome their financial difficulties. Crafted by his spokesperson, Macron, the release also made it clear Newton would return to the Talk of the Town Theater in April. Orlando wouldn't. Behind the curtain, the numbers painted a grim picture for Orlando. Internal documents revealed that he had fallen well short of his own projections, promising an average draw of 750 paid guests per show. He, instead, averaged just 383. The high points? Only 2 shows surpassed his goal. Even the sold-out show, scrapped after the scandal broke, couldn't salvage the season's dismal bottom line. Newton's company, White Eagle Corporation, which held the lease, took a roughly $2 million hit. Orlando's representative didn't dispute the math, but he argued the real issue wasn't ticket sales, it was trust. As tensions simmered, Newton stepped onto a national stage. On December 29, he appeared on Larry King Live, an interview Newton's publicist insisted had been booked a month earlier to celebrate Newton's 40-year career. But King, known for his soft touch, surprised with sharper questions. Wayne Newton remained composed when questioned about the bugging allegations. He explained that he and his wife, Kathleen, held the lease but didn't own the theater, dismissing the accusations as absurd, Newton chose not to engage with the claims, opting instead to maintain his calm demeanor. When King referred to Tony Orlando as a pussycat, Newton's response was laced with a sense of pity. He believed Orlando used the allegations as a distraction from his inability to meet his obligations rather than taking responsibility for his actions. Newton felt sorry for Orlando's decision. Regarding the status of their partnership, Newton didn't hesitate to acknowledge that it was over. While he had never let financial disagreements ruin friendships, Orlando had apparently taken a different approach. Newton clarified the nature of the recording, stating that it was simply a recording of his show. There was no secret conversation captured on tape. When the police played it back, all they heard was Newton's on-stage performance. And just like that, 90 seconds of national airtime distilled a months-long feud into a few sharp, edged sound bites. Newton didn't express anger, only pity. But the message was crystal clear. Friendship had ended, the curtain had dropped, and the drama was far from over. This drama would later make Newton's finances even worse than it was before the rift. While Newton's later years has been marred by controversies and financial struggles, it all started so beautifully. Wayne Newton's early life. Long before the glittering marquees of Las Vegas bore his name, before the private jets and the Persian horses, Wayne Newton was just a sickly kid growing up in Norfolk, Virginia. Born in 1942 to Patrick Newton, an auto mechanic, and Evelyn Smith, a homemaker, little Carson Wayne Newton had no idea that music would one day become both his lifeline and his legacy. From the start, life wasn't easy. Wayne battled severe asthma as a child, so severe, in fact, that doctors warned his parents that the damp Virginian air might one day take his breath away for good. So, like a scene from a Depression-era movie, the Newton family packed up what they could and moved west, chasing the dry, sunlit skies of Phoenix, Arizona, in search of relief and a new beginning. It turned out to be more than just a change of climate. In that parched desert city, something magical happened. Wayne Newton discovered music. It began innocently enough, just a child, plucking at a violin. But soon, he was mastering the piano, the steel guitar, and even the ukulele. The music wasn't just a hobby. It became a form of oxygen, a way to rise above his fragile health and quiet shyness. While other kids played baseball or rode bikes, Wayne Newton was learning show tunes and classical melodies, often practicing for hours while propped up, with pillows to help his breathing. He wasn't alone in his musical journey. Alongside him was his older brother, Jerry. Together, they formed a duo known as the Rascals in Rhythm. What began as neighborhood talent show, gigs quickly snowballed into something far bigger. By the age of 10, Wayne Newton was performing regularly on local TV programs, radio shows, and even state fairs. His voice was high and sweet, his charm undeniable. Audiences were mesmerized, not just by his talent, but by his sheer determination. By the time most kids were worried about their next spelling test, Wayne Newton was already chasing dreams that stretched far beyond Phoenix's dusty borders. And though no one knew it then, this asthma-stricken boy with a violin in one hand and a dream in his heart was on the path to becoming an icon. Wayne Newton's rise to fame. For many, fame is a distant dream, a whisper of what if? But for Wayne Newton, that dream began taking shape before he was even out of his teens, guided by fate, family, and a perfectly timed twist of showbiz luck. By the late 1950s, Wayne Newton and his brother Jerry had taken the Rascals in. Rhythm from Phoenix talent shows to something more serious. Their harmonies and polished stage presence earned them gigs opening for bigger acts. One such opportunity brought them to Las Vegas, a city of dazzling lights and endless possibilities. It was here that Wayne Newton's destiny truly began to unfold. While performing at a local lounge, the Newton brothers caught the attention of none other than Jackie Gleason, the iconic comedian and television titan. Gleason, known for his keen eye for talent, saw something special in Wayne. Not just talent, but presence, charisma, a spark. With a few phone calls, Wayne was booked on The Jackie Gleason Show, a television juggernaut of the time. The nation got its first real look at the boy with the golden voice and cherubic charm. He wasn't yet a household name, but the buzz had begun. Then came Las Vegas, the city that would forever become synonymous with Wayne Newton. In the early 60s, he landed a gig at the Fremont Hotel in downtown Vegas. It wasn't Caesars, Palace, or the MGM Grand, but it was a start. Night after night, Wayne sang his heart out to casino crowds, gradually moving from opening act to headliner. Word spread quickly. This young man could sing. Not only that, he could connect. Audiences felt like he was singing directly to them, and perhaps, in a way, he was. Then came 1963. That year, Wayne Newton recorded what would become his signature song, Danke Schön. With its lilting melody and elegant delivery, the tune captured America's imagination. The fact that it came from such a young, fresh-faced performer only made it more remarkable. The single rocketed up the charts and made Wayne a star practically. Overnight, suddenly he was everywhere. Talk shows, variety shows, film cameos, you name it. He made frequent appearances on The Ed Sullivan Show, The Tonight Show, and even guest starred in Hollywood productions. He wasn't just a singer anymore. He was a brand, a smiling tuxedo-clad symbol of old school glamour. As his Vegas career soared, Newton performed constantly, sometimes twice a night, 6 nights a week. That tireless work ethic earned him a new nickname, Mr. Las Vegas. Unlike other performers who popped in and out of the city, Newton made it his permanent stage. He didn't just visit the Strip, he owned it. With fame came fortune, and Newton embraced the high life with open arms. He began collecting classic cars, Arabian horses, and eventually purchased the lavish estate that would become Casa de Shenandoah, complete with white fences, waterfalls, and a personal zoo. Everything about his life screamed extravagance, from the tailored suits to the private jets. He had arrived. Yet, through it all, Newton maintained a unique ability to balance polish with approachability. He wasn't the untouchable superstar. He was the guy who looked you in the eye from the stage, the one who smiled like you were the only person in the room. That sincerity kept fans coming back, show after show, year after year. Wayne Newton's rise wasn't a flash in the pan. It was a slow, steady burn, fueled by relentless work, undeniable talent, and an almost old-fashioned charm. He didn't just become famous, he became iconic. and in doing so, he helped define the very spirit of Las Vegas. The cars, the flashing lights, and Casa de Shenandoah. If Las Vegas had a royal family, Wayne Newton would have been its reigning king, and his castle was Casa de Shenandoah. Just a short drive from the Las Vegas Strip, Newton's 52-acre estate was more than a home. It was a personal kingdom built on glitz, showmanship, and a taste for the spectacular. Towering palm trees lined the entrance. White fences stretched for miles. A crystal chandelier glittered inside the front gates. The name alone, Casa de Shenandoah, whispered extravagance. But this wasn't just luxury for the sake of it. For Newton, the estate was a statement, a dreamscape where he could display the spoils of decades of fame, a private world that included a jet parked beside the house, stables for over 70 Arabian horses, and exotic animals that roamed the grounds, wallabies, peacocks, even monkeys. And then there were the cars. Wayne Newton wasn't just a collector, he was an automotive connoisseur. His garages held a jaw-dropping fleet. Classic Rolls-Royces with gleaming silver grills, elegant Mercedes from eras, long gone and throaty American muscle cars that looked like they'd driven straight out of a 1960s action film. Each car was polished to perfection, a reflection of the man himself, flashy, refined, and nostalgic. But behind the velvet curtains and manicured lawns, the cost of the dream began to mount. Casa de Shenandoah demanded constant care. The grounds alone were a logistical nightmare. Feeding the animals, maintaining the stables, landscaping acres of desert terrain, and keeping the sprawling mansion pristine. The price tag for this lifestyle? Astronomical. As financial troubles crept in, Newton made a controversial decision. He opened the gates to the public. Casa de Shenandoah became a tourist attraction, a living museum to the legend of Wayne Newton. Visitors could stroll past his horse barns, tour his private jet, and admire his rhinestone-studded stage costumes. The hope was clear: turn nostalgia into revenue. At first, fans loved it. They came in droves to see how Mr. Las Vegas lived. But soon, cracks began to show. Lawsuits surfaced. Disputes with contractors over unpaid work. Maintenance issues escalated. Behind the glimmer, it became apparent that Newton was struggling to hold on to his empire. What had once been a symbol of triumph slowly turned into a burden. Lavish turned to over-leveraged. The very dream that had embodied Newton's success became a haunting reminder of how easily fortune can slip away. Wayne Newton's lifestyle was never modest, never ordinary. It was bold and unapologetically larger than life, just like his career. But as time wore on, even legends learn that castles, no matter how grand, are hard to keep standing. Forever. Wayne Newton's personal life and relationships. Behind the sequins and spotlight, beyond the velvet-curtained stages of Las Vegas, where his voice once echoed through packed showrooms night after night, Wayne Newton's personal life tells a more intimate, layered story. A story not of limelight and legacy, but of love found, love lost, and the quiet complexity of a man who never stopped performing, even when the stage lights dimmed. Wayne Newton first stepped into matrimony in 1968 when he married Elaine. Okamura, a poised and elegant former airline stewardess. At the time, Newton was already on. The Rise, his smooth baritone voice and ever-present smile making him a favorite in both Vegas, lounges and American living rooms. Together, he and Elaine welcomed a daughter, Erin, and, for a while, their lives seemed to mirror the very image of mid-century American glamour. A high-profile entertainer, a devoted wife, a beautiful child, and a home filled with music, laughter, and luxury. But fame is a double-edged sword, and as Newton's career soared, the pressure to maintain that success and the empire that came with it only grew. His days were consumed by performances, business meetings, and public appearances. The demands of being Wayne. Newton, the entertainer, left little space for Wayne Newton, the husband and father. In 1985, after nearly 2 decades together, Wayne and Elaine quietly ended their marriage. It was not a scandalous breakup, but it marked a pivotal moment in Newton's life, a personal reset, as he entered a new chapter of both career and character. Nearly a decade later, in 1994, Newton found love again, this time in a courtroom, not a casino. Kathleen McCrone, an accomplished attorney from Ohio, brought with her a fierce intelligence and grounded sensibility that contrasted Newton's showbiz background. The daughter of a federal judge, Kathleen wasn't dazzled by fame. She had her own firm footing in the world. Their relationship was different from his first marriage, not just in dynamic, but in timing. Kathleen didn't fall for the performer on stage, she fell for the man off it. Together, they had a daughter, Lauren Ashley Newton, and settled into a rhythm that was less about glitz and more about stability, though in the Newton household, even quiet came with its share of drama. Kathleen became more than a partner. She was a defender. Through lawsuits, debt disputes, and the chaos surrounding Casa de Shenandoah, Newton's once palatial estate, Kathleen stood firm. She was there in the courtrooms, in interviews, on the red carpet, often a step behind, but never in the shadows. Her presence was unwavering, even as Newton faced financial ruin, health scares, and public scrutiny. Their marriage became one of the few constants in a life defined by change. Wayne Newton's daughters, Erin from his first marriage and Lauren from his second, have largely chosen to live outside the spotlight. Erin has kept a low profile, distancing herself from her father's celebrity sphere, while Lauren, though occasionally appearing at public events, has not pursued a path in entertainment. The contrast between Newton's high-profile life and his daughter's more private existences only underscores the generational shift. A man raised in the glow of showbiz, raising daughters who prefer the shade. But even as Newton's career waned and friends faded, his image remained largely intact, though not untouched. Business partnerships fell apart. Some allies turned critics. Rumors circulated, whispered in the corners of entertainment circles, about mismanagement, betrayal, and ego. At times, the line between Wayne Newton the man and Wayne Newton the myth blurred even for those closest to him. Fame, once a crown, became a weight. Still, Newton rarely let the cracks show. Interviews continued to showcase his charm, his wit, and his gratitude. He told stories of Frank Sinatra and Elvis, smiled through questions about lawsuits, and always insisted he had no regrets. Whether that was entirely true or just another performance, only those closest to him truly know. In the end, Wayne Newton's story is more than a cautionary tale of fading fame or financial missteps. It's a portrait of resilience, of reinvention, and of a man who clung to love and family. As the world around him changed, his relationships, particularly with Kathleen and his daughters, became the quiet scaffolding behind the grand facade. And so, as the curtain lowers and the crowds grow silent, we applaud once more, not just for the velvet voice or the Vegas legacy, but for the man who kept going, who kept loving, and who, even in silence, never truly stopped performing. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check out another interesting video by clicking on the video shown on your screen. See you on the other side.